What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Press X podcast. Today, we're going to be counting down our top 10 Dreamcast games. We've done numerous ones of these. I always quickly go over the rules. They haven't really changed, but we each bring our own individual top 10 list.
Yeah.
Our number 10 is worth 1 point. Our number 1 is worth 10 points, and everything in between. We tally them up. We break tiebreakers or whatever. We'll figure out what we'll have to do. If that comes up, our rules have been that if the game released not originally on the console, so not originally on the Dreamcast, it just can't go on the list.
Yeah.
This system in particular is a little bit weird because it's a port-heavy machine for like arcades and stuff.
It's a home arcade machine.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Those are not other consoles. Like, we're concerned about consoles.
Because we're not going to do a top 10 arcade because you can't go out and just
no,
willy-nilly buy those.
we've got
That's
Pac-Man,
expensive. Yeah.
or Mrs. Pac-Man, for sure, over Pac-Man.
Sure.
But anyway, another rule that we have is only one per franchise, which in this particular console, not as big of a deal.
It's not Nintendo, so it's not super franchise heavy.
Right.
At this point.
That was the real issue, is we'd do Nintendo lists, and we'd be like, there's 7 Marios and 3 Zeldas. This probably doesn't work very well. Other than that, our reasoning for choosing it is, like, if you get this console, these are kind of the 10 games we think you should buy.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the best or our favorites or whatever, but kind of the ones that we think you should get if you're getting this console.
And unfortunately, like, the further we scale back in time, A, the more expensive the games get because they're not just produced anymore. B, we're kind of... This is the forefront, I guess, of the online era, so it won't matter after this one, I guess, but online experiences may change because obviously servers haven't held up for 15 years or whatever it would be at this point. I guess experiences and memories might change a little because, you can't just go jump on and play this game online anymore. I'm sure there's emulators and stuff out there that have kept a lot of these games alive, or maybe they're on the 10th installment of whatever game, but those are the only weird things about us talking about a system that is quite old.
Yeah, actually dead.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about the Dreamcast is it holds up fairly well for what it is. Not only in just like it's got a lot of 2D and 3D games, it's got kind of a mix, which is nice, but just art styles and even like kind of in a lot of ways the controller and stuff, like things about this console hold up better than I think a lot of the other consoles.
Yeah, that's the good thing or one of the good things about Sega games is that they have an art style that usually lasts a while. It's when they try to go the more realistic route is when you can tell aging pretty well. So,
which is a problem with kind of this generation of consoles, like the GoldenEyes and things.
Yeah, that's why a lot of these games get, depending on how you want to look at the word, remastered or just basically redone.
Yeah,
it's not preferable to put these games in 4K because I don't know, it looks awful in a lot of cases. So.
I don't disagree. But with that said, let's hop into our lists. I was saying that I think we'll have like 14 different games. I think our lists are going to be more similar than any other list that we've done.
Okay.
You think it's going to be 17?
17 plus, yeah.
That's interesting. I'm excited. Do you want to start or should I start?
Don't you usually start?
I do, but I was just offering.
So you can always write. Okay, yeah, I'll go first just to mix it up.
I was excited for my number 10, but okay.
I really like Dreamcast. It's probably...
You do.
Off the top of my head, if I just wasn't looking at a list, I'd say like second or third favorite machine.
Wow, machine.
And it hit me...
It beat out toaster and
of all inventions. Console gaming machine. It hit me right at a perfect time, like early to mid-teens, where this is all I had to do. No responsibilities, no real life. It's just play. And this is when I could sort of start like saving up money, buying my own stuff. So it wasn't like wait till birthday, wait till Christmas.
Yeah, you get one game to play for 6 months. Deal with it.
And because I was a big arcade rat, so it was nice to... maybe skip Crazy Taxi or something like that in the arcade and come home and just play it. Something like that. Or if you had a light gun, maybe play House of the Dead. And this is where online started to kick off. I used that kind of mildly because it wasn't anything like what we know now with Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, Nintendo. But it was there. It existed. There's a keyboard. And
there is a keyboard,
and you could play stuff online against people.
Yeah, you can also type with a dead if you
you
so choose.
So it's just got a soft, warm, fuzzy place in my heart, just because just stars aligned with point in my life and just the cool games I really like Sega. And one of the podcasts that we did this year, we talked about favorite publishers or developers, and I had a lot of good things to say about Sega, and lo and behold, it kind of runs through with this.
That's interesting. I have a very opposite reaction to this console. It's one of the only consoles I got as a kid that I did not like. I was just not a big fan of it. I actually remember the day before I got a gift, and I opened it up, and it was a Dreamcast game from my brother, and I was like, I don't have a Dreamcast. And he's like, oh. It's like, well, maybe you'll get one day. And I was like, okay. And then, lo and behold, the next morning, I had a Dreamcast, and I was like, oh, now I can play that game. and like, I liked the games that I had on it, but I just think I liked the other consoles I had more, and I was like already invested in them. And I didn't have a Mega Man game for the Dreamcast, so that was part of the problem.
That's why it's the best system of all time.
That's what you need to get me in the door.
But this one, I won't call it so much like the Wii, the party game console, but you needed some other people there too. A lot of, I won't say co-op, but like adversarial type games, or maybe even co-op too if you want to look at some of the House of Dead type stuff. But a lot of fun, kind of like active games if you weren't playing co-op or adversarial, like a fighting game, basically. This was the fighting game machine back in the day because arcade ports. So
With
I guess
that said,
number 10.
Let's hop into it. I'm excited.
I can't very well make a Sega Dreamcast list without Sonic Adventure in it, so that's my number 10. I believe it was the first Sonic game that had 3D gameplay in it. You also had like 5 or 6 people that you could choose from, so it was nice bouncing around between different people with different abilities and not just doing the same thing over and over and over, even though some of the Sonic games of old had really cool levels and all that, but that got tired, or I got tired of it pretty quickly. So I think, too, it's like the highest selling Dreamcast game, at least up to a point. So it's worth noting in a list like this where we're saying, hey, you just got this, well, cleaner than this one, hopefully, but this brand new shiny Dreamcast. Here's the 10 games that we collectively think you should get for it. I think this one's got to be on the list because, I mean, it's Sega's poster boy or poster hedgehog. And yeah, it's just a really fun game. I think it's probably, I haven't played the newest one that came out for Switch, but I think at least up until that point, it might have been considered the best Sonic game.
Yeah, Sonic, it's tough because people like different things out of Sonic. People like 2 a lot, and I don't know why people like any of them, to be honest. But
and we are missing our resident Sonic expert.
Yeah, we found the one guy who likes Sonic, but he won't show up and help us with this list. So,
but yeah, Sonic Adventure, number 10.
My number 10. I'm interested in your reaction to this one. We got Samba de Amigo. We need to have the Guitar Hero of the Dreamcast. So this one's a little bit lower, even though I actually think the game is better than number 10 on the list, in my opinion. It's got the whole peripheral thing going for it. You need maracas to play this game with this monkey boy. But it's really cool. It's actually very similar to Guitar Hero with, kind of, it's almost like an early Guitar Hero, in my opinion. And it had its own song selection. It's got this kind of like Mexican theme to it, which is something that's not that common in games, at least. And then it also just had like Sonic music in the game that you could rock out to in maraca too. So yeah, a little bit lower than maybe I would have liked it because to get the game you do need a lot of stuff to just set it up and get it going. But I like that game.
Have you ever seen the commercial for it?
I have not.
It might put it to number 1 on your list, but I'll save that for after the show because I always, earlier in my life, I guess, when I saw it, I laughed my ass off every time I saw it. So.
Is it as good as the Crash Bandicoot commercials where he's yelling at Nintendo? Because those are pretty good.
It's a different style of commercial, I'll say. So aimed at a different audience. Number 9, Shenmue 1. Why not number 2, I guess, is the first question, because it didn't release in the U.S. It was only released in Japan.
Yeah,
and
we
Europe,
need to
I
make
think.
some artificial rules sometimes.
So, and Microsoft bought the rights to finally bring it over to us. But that's not to say Shenmue 1's any worse. Really, it's a great game. I think at that point when it was made, it was like the most expensive video game ever made, was kind of like the tagline for it. Really cool. I mean, it holds up well, too. They just re-released it, I guess, for current-gen systems that we're at right now. So people that missed out on it way back when are now enjoying, I guess, the same thing that we enjoyed maybe a decade or so ago. It's a really cool game. It's very, very Asian in the fact that it's not like your typical Western type of game. I wouldn't... It's kind of an RPG, but I wouldn't really call it that. The cool thing about the game, though, are sort of like the characters and just the things you can do. It had nice little mini games, and I don't know, it was just a nice breath of fresh air from the kind of long JRPG type games, the Final Fantasies and stuff like that. It was just kind of a break from the norm, and it was this weird kind of Western Eastern hybrid that felt really good, at least at the time. And I think they pretty much hold up well. I mean, obviously the graphics and stuff are pretty dated at this point, but with the re-release, you know, people are still excited about it. Shenmue 3 still gets people standing on their feet. So this franchise has got like a long history of...
There's going to be, what was it, 13 of them, they said?
Yeah. We got a while, folks. But no, it's one of those just like historic, nice little trademarks, I guess, of the Sega franchise, and it's nice to see that people are still interested in it, whether it's like it being adapted to current gen consoles or a new one of the series coming out. Nice little game. So number 9.
Lower than I would have thought for you. I know you like that game.
We're bringing the heat though on this list. So
number 9 for me is Power Stone 2.
Yeah.
Power Stone 2 is this brawler fighting game platformer. It's, I don't know, it almost reminds me of I don't want to say Bomberman, but that because you don't like jump and stuff in Bomberman, but it's got that kind of feel to it to me. Where you're running around, you're beating each other up, you're collecting things, so it's kind of this like collectathon thing, but it's also got like boss battles in the middle of the levels, and it's a little strange. So I picked this one over the first one because it is kind of just the first one but better. Which happens a lot with number 2s in video games. They seem to always expand just enough and kind of get it just right, and I think that's the case here. These are still very loved games. I think both of them are worth checking out, but they're still very, very loved games. This is your party game. This is your 4-player, you know, like I said, brawler, platformer, collectathon, whatever you want to call it.
I always call it like the final round of like a game show, just because there's like 20 rules that you have to go by, and it's just like sporadic and chaotic. So yeah, it's its own style of game for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to classify besides like party game. Party game is probably the best way to put it. But anyway, number 9, Power Stone 2, rocking that slot for me.
I like it. Number 8. Sorry, I forget that I started this one off. Resident Evil Code Veronica. This one's a bit different. Usually I am one to stick to the main series, as in the ones with numbers in it for the most part. But Code Veronica kind of hit like a nice sweet point for me. The really cool thing about it, and I guess the parts that people praised the most, are they made some changes, I guess, in the way that they went about this game. They had more of the dynamic style camera than what they had before, and obviously what we know now as kind of the over-the-shoulder third person. They also had like real-time backgrounds, which was kind of a new thing for them. Everything else was usually, I guess, I don't know what the best word, but like almost like scripted backgrounds or kind of static.
They're pre-rendered.
Yeah. So it was a nice little break, and normally I'm one to stick with core series and not jump off too much on the spin-offs of them. But this one was a nice break from what I have had at that point. And a lot of people seemed to think, it was of the caliber of 1 and 2, which was really cool to think about, and 3, I guess. People like 3 as well. But it was nice to see that they had other ideas that they could jump off and use, and it worked. And yeah, that's just kind of my thing. I know for the most part, this one's more considered more like a Hollywood movie than they had at that point. Obviously, when we get into like 4, especially Resident Evil 5 and beyond, maybe not 7, but that's when it feels like, okay, it's like an action movie sort of thing. Like that's kind of the...
We're going downhill now.
Yeah, that's kind of the part where it started to drop, that series started to drop a little bit, but this one
You mean
is...
the part where the action movies came out?
But this one kind of stuck to its roots, but tried a few new things, and it worked. So that sort of leap, I guess, always clicks with me, just because a lot of people either get stuck kind of in their own ways and don't want to change much, or they do something completely different, and you're just like, wow, what happened? So nice little break in the middle there, and that's where it ends up for me, number 8.
I'm going to echo you with my number 8 as Resident Evil Code Veronica. Just add some things to it, I guess. But you hit a lot of it. So it was originally actually Resident Evil 3, and then they kind of spun it off because I think, and I might be wrong here, but I think the deal was that PlayStation had the license to the numbered Resident Evils at that time, so they couldn't make Resident Evil 3 for Dreamcast. So they made the clear sequel to 2 a spin-off instead. But yeah, they redid the control scheme for the game, which is something that a lot of people like because they got rid of the tankiness of the controls that some people have. I like tank controls, but some people have a problem with, and they went with the more you just aim what direction you want to go. On this particular version, it is the it is an epic Resident Evil. It's the longest one that they've done. But yeah,
probably, yeah.
Like you said,
you think about that.
The classic, it keeps its classic style, but adds a lot of things, but doesn't detract from kind of what it already had. So yeah, if you like Resident Evil, for sure, this is a must play, must have.
I never thought about it being the longest one, but I guess that's true. It's been a minute since I've played it, but you don't exactly see too many Code Veronica speed runs either. So I'm sure there's one out there, but number 7. Yeah, I'm just not used to going first. This is weird.
I'm sorry.
Power Stone 2, like you had already mentioned. To kind of add what you said, you don't really just go in the typical sort of genre and see fighting game or platformer, and you find it's somewhere wedged between 4 or 5 genres, and it's just really kind of like an explosive, chaotic game, but it's really fun too at the same time. Usually you think fighter, you think, super focused, people are smacking away at the buttons or the arcade sticks or whatever, really getting into it, really heated. This one's just more kind of fun. This is basically the same kind of niche that Smash Brothers is in, but they don't really play similarly, but it just kind of fits that sort of niche of this isn't really
niche. I would say the niche when Smash first came out.
Yeah.
Not now. Now it's now streaming and stuff. It's crazy.
But yeah, this is more for just a fun break. You have some friends over, just play this sort of fighting game, and everybody can kind of get in on it. And it's not necessarily the guy with the most skill, or it's just sort of like a
party games.
Yeah. So anyone can jump in, anyone can grab a controller, and anyone can win. The characters were all pretty cool. It was nice playing this in the arcade as well, so it was just as fun at home as it was in the arcade.
Theme of the console.
Cheaper too.
Maybe.
Had a really cool soundtrack too, so that helped. The art style holds up well, so just we'll probably be able to say with a lot of these games, it's still just as fun as it always was. And yeah, number 7.
My number 7 is Soul Calibur. So this is a super arcade accurate fighting game, 3D fighter, which is not brand new, but this is a top tier 3D fighter that we have on a console that actually works really, really well. It's unique in that it's interesting talking about some of these games because they have so many sequels and they're still going today. So it's kind of like a duh, but at the time, it was a weapon-based fighting game, which is not something that people were used to or that people saw very often. Your characters are fighting, with swords and nunchucks and all these different things that it just wasn't common back then. It has a more realistic graphical style to it, but it still looks really good today, which is impressive. And that's what I was talking about just with the Dreamcast. Like, there's something, I don't know what it is. I'm sure somebody much smarter than I could tell me. But these games graphically just look better. Like, I don't know if it's they had higher texture quality or what, but like they just look so much better than the other games releasing at the time when you compare them today. This is just your 3D fighter done right on a home system, and kicked off the series with all of its iconic characters and everything. So Soul Calibur coming in hot. Number 7.
Next one for me, Crazy Taxi. Gotta mention it. Gotta love it. Everyone, I'm pretty sure who's ever been to an arcade has ever played this game. Not much in the realm of like 30-hour experiences or anything like that, but I think it is one of those games you just kind of have to have with the system. Sort of like Sonic, sort of like some of these other titles that we'll mention on here. But Crazy Taxi, awesome licensed music choices in this one. Loud, punk, fast rock to kind of get you in the mood for driving people around town and dropping them off at their destinations. Really cool characters, really cool cars to mention that go all along with each other. And yeah, it's just the classic sort of game. I'm pretty sure if you had to say Sega Dreamcast, name some titles, like that would be one of the first maybe 3 that people mention. And I would imagine most people at the time, at least, maybe not if you're buying it in 2018, but I think most people who bought the machine would have Crazy Taxi.
Nope. My number 6. This is weird. I'm getting confused. I don't like it.
Yeah.
My number 6 is Shenmue. So 1, of course, can't put 2 on here. But this is, like you said, this is an open world game kind of before that was a thing. Mm-hmm. It did a lot of stuff that's in every video game now, just the ability to walk up and talk to anybody. These like quick time events and the like this living world and all the stuff that people are doing nowadays, and this was where it started. So this one kind of gets some points for being historical.
Yeah, it's like the grandpa.
I think that's totally fine. If you're going to buy a console, you probably want the historical games, like these landmark things, even if maybe gameplay-wise or whatever, other things have done it better now. It's still cool just to see where that came from and kind of get a feel for that. It has lovable characters that people are still waiting for the conclusions of, of today. And like I said, just for its impact on gaming, it is really, really cool. Like some stuff now you're like, this is mundane and frustrating because I have to wait 18 hours in game to do something, or I have to wait till tomorrow or whatever it is. But at the time, like I said, nothing was like that. And it's just really cool to go back to it and check it out and see kind of what they were going for. I definitely think if you have a Dreamcast, you need to own it.
Yeah, I mean, in a world full of God of Wars and Horizons and stuff like that, I mean, obviously it's hard to compare those games, but you see where the roots, I guess, came from. So, nice game. Number 5, starting to turn the corner here and get into the All-Star games.
I agree.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2, New Age of Heroes. Let me just take you for a ride, I guess, real quick, into probably one of the most fun fighting games. And when I say fun, people don't always presume that Tekken and Street Fighters and stuff like that are fun because it's something you can have fun, but then if you want to be the top, you got to grind. You got to learn it. You got to play thousands of matches.
In 3D fighters, button mashing, not as effective.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
work as well unless you're playing Eddie and Tekken. It just doesn't go that well.
And at this time, it was mostly one-on-one fighters all the time. But when you start throwing multiple on the screen and you're hitting buttons and people are jumping in, saying their lines, doing a special move, jumping out, swapping, it's chaos.
And like, once again, something we take for granted. Playing that game when it came out and seeing these characters interact with each other was so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that is not something that we saw before.
Yeah, this was a world before cinematic universes and, I mean, cartoons were big at that time, so
like,
maybe
Mega
X-Men
Man can shoot Iron Man. This is sweet.
So maybe you'd see some X-Men type stuff, but when you see like all these people jumping in at once and just arguing with your friend, like, nuh-uh, Spider-Man and Captain America's better.
Is on the console.
But it was just a really insanely fun game. And yeah, there was a skill cap to it. You could be better than the other person if you learn, awesome moves, but it didn't feel bad when you lost. You could lose 100 times and still just have the time of your life, just because your favorite guys are up there playing against your other friends' favorite guys, and it was just pure pandemonium. The soundtrack, exquisite, especially the character selection theme. But game's just really good all around. All the characters are
the
fun.
Most out of place characters. Like, it's funny because I remember I used to play that game in arcades, and it was next to like a racing game, and I always thought it was a racing game.
Well, like Cruising USA or something.
In fact, I think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, it's just this game, this franchise, really, up until Infinity or whatever it's called, Infinite. Yikes! But up until then, I mean, the game is just stuck to what it's known for, and it's just this pure, just let's get all the guys, throw them into a bucket. Not like Smash Brothers, where it's a little bit slower paced. It's a little bit the characters feel floaty and slow for the most part, and there's not really many moves. This one is like pure speed. This one is keeping to the comic style as far as what they look like versus printed versus on screen, and it's just really fun. Number 5.
I respect that. My number 5 is the actual number 5, and that is the Space Channel 5. We got Ooh La La here. So this is a music rhythm game that oozes style. It's more of like a Parappa the Rapper than a Guitar Hero. It's not like you're playing the instrument like Guitar Hero or something like that. It's more like Parappa, where you're just kind of matching it's almost like a Simon Says game. I guess that's a good way to put it. It plays more like a Simon Says. It holds up today with its art style and its like quirkiness and its weirdness. It was real insane. It has a character that's actually appeared in a lot of other things, even though she doesn't do very much at all anymore. Michael Jackson's in this game. Yeah, that's a hidden thing that you can go hang out with and play some. Michael Jackson appearing on the Sega stuff quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, I'm actually a pretty big fan of Ooh La La as a character in Space Channel 5. And I feel like it's very fitting to throw this one at the number 5 slot.
Sega could get away with that style of character and game quite often.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. We are jumping to number 4.
We are.
Might be a surprise. And I am reading this correctly. Number 4, Jet Grind Radio. If you go through some of our other lists or just podcasts, or look beside me
I'm going to be honest, you've used everything I thought was going to be your number 1. I'm very confused.
Or if you look right beside me, or on my shirt, I am quite a big proponent of the Jet Set franchise. Really love these games just for everything, like almost every category that you can really judge a game off of. They're just fun. I like the world. I like just the idea. Yeah, there's games like Tony Hawk since then that, you can do your grinding and your tricks and all that.
You're grinding and you're setting and you're radioing.
But no game really combines, or I guess no series if we're talking about all of them, but no game, at least on this system, combines like that awesome soundtrack, which is its own kind of like urban underground like J-pop sort of hybrid. It's just real, like you got to hear it to understand it.
It's really good.
Some games that aren't in the Jet Set franchise have come close to kind of emulating that. I know there's some anime and some shows out there that kind of have that same kind of urban feel to it, but none of it has resonated quite as well with me as this game and the series. Characters are awesome. Obviously, this being just Jet Grind Radio, there's not as many as some of the other games, but still the classic ones, and I think pretty much everyone knows who Beat is. It's nice to have him star in the game, and it'd be nice to see him in other games too. But yeah, it's just, I think it's the world too. It's the levels that you go to, and I guess cities for the most part. But it's just kind of a combination of everything that just really clicks and really makes for one real smooth experience. And yeah, you got to play it. Whether you're playing Future on Xbox or Grind on this one, it's just so good. And I could keep going on, but I'll stop there. So number 4, Jet Grind Radio.
All right. Well, I'll pick up where you left off because my number 4 is Jet Grind
nice.
Radio. Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. I think it holds up incredibly well. Its art style is still beautiful to this day. Its characters have that personality that I really like. That I think like
and they don't
and stuff.
And they don't need like dialogue to sound cool. They just look cool. Like aesthetically, they're just kind of cool.
Ooh, I don't know. The DJ guy's dialogue is pretty solid, if you ask me. But yeah, just awesome character design. I think its most modern equivalent. There's games that like actually try to emulate, and I've heard have been pretty good. But like I think aesthetically, the most modern thing is like Splatoon.
Sure.
It has that like colorfulness in this like urban like world.
There's a lot, especially 2. There's a lot of songs that pop on every now and then. It's like, man, this kind of gives me like a Jet Set feel
for sure. But yeah, I think this is one of the best soundtracks that there's been in a game just ever. Like compilation soundtracks. It's so good. Everything that you said. Also, I remember a little bit of controversy about this game because for some reason it came out around the time when like tagging and stuff was like a big thing. That everybody, it's around when they're like, "Ooh, we can't sell spray paint to kids anymore. We you got to check IDs to buy this now." And I remember playing it and like I'd see it on like the news or like G4 or whatever, people are talking about it. They're like, "Oh, this game's so bad."
Yeah.
Like, okay, whatever.
Collector's edition comes with like a spray paint can. Get out there, kids. Yeah, times have changed. But what hasn't changed is my number 3, which is Soul Calibur. We'll just leave it at that.
I was like, oh, that's got to be the number 1.
You've forgotten a lot of conversations if you don't know what my number 1 is. But Soul Calibur, what a series. This was not, I guess, sort of the origin, because this is when I first heard about it. Technically not the first entry into the series, if you're counting Soul Edge. But what a great game. Only to be outdone, I think, by its immediate predecessor. But compared to the long, long list of fighting game titles, this one is right up there. There was something really about the control, I think, of this game. The ring out mechanics, the levels, and I think for me, sort of like the gothic sort of feel to the game. I like that it wasn't, you're out in ancient Japan, or you're just kind of cruising all these little spots around the world, and it's just like a wrestling ring or like a quick little arena. Like this was on like the top of like castle and like mountain peaks and like floating through rivers. Like the stages are really cool. They're dynamic in the fact that, shifting around, maybe not as much like some games now where like you fall through the stage and you can do all this stuff. But it was just really kind of surreal in some parts to you, like even if you weren't fighting, just to watch the game, you're like, man, I'm just like going down a quick river right now, and it's just really epic. The soundtrack really matched it too, made it feel more medieval, more gothic, just epic in a sense, and the characters were really cool. It was really highlighted by weapon fighting, which most games at that time were, what kind of fireball or uppercut or kick move or combo can I do? This one is just like everyone's...
It's either projectiles or punching.
Yeah. everyone's personalities were kind of mimicked with their weapons. So that was really cool to have that, whether it was nunchucks or staffs or weird blade things. It was just really cool that everyone had their own style on top of their own weapon. And the stories were pretty cool. I really liked the art on top of, like, not only watching the game, but it also had very memorable art as far as like character selection screens, and when you dug through the game files and you can look at people's backstories and art galleries and stuff in game and collectibles that you unlocked and saw the stuff. Really complete game and really holds up well even if you're not playing 2. And this is, you know, the reason why people are still getting excited about 6 coming out now, because it feels like this game, which, like I mentioned, kind of with Resident Evil, maybe a couple other things on the list are in this world of Dreamcast games. A lot of franchises have taken a little bit of a dip now that they've gotten onto the 4th, 5th, 6th installment of their respective series.
Soul Calibur is no different.
Yeah. Poster child almost for that statement. But the fact that this new one coming out this year is a nod to 1 and 2 Soul Caliburs. That's what are that's what's getting people excited again. That's what's getting the soul burning again.
You're gonna say.
So yeah, I think the fact that people are still just as excited about this new installment that is hopefully going to mimic this current installment, or this named one, is a nod to how great it is. So number 3.
I know you're number 1. I figured it out.
That or you can read from across the table.
No, I definitely can't read. That's for sure.
I barely can.
That's been proven many times. Number 3. I don't actually. Well, so my number 3 is House of the Dead 2.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Typing of the Dead, which is
close.
not a bad game.
Yeah.
Is totally reasonable. But House of the Dead 2, I think this is probably the best House of the Dead game. I love its cheesy, campy, horrible voice acting. And over the top everything. But just as a light gun game, it's probably my favorite of all the light gun games that I play. Real big fan of it.
I'm more of a Time Crisis type, but yeah, House of the Dead's really fun.
Sure. It's got B-movie everything.
Oh, yeah.
Actual everything. In fact, there was a movie that came out for it, but I wouldn't compliment it and call it a B-movie.
Oh, I'm going nowhere near that.
That's like a Z movie. That movie's really bad. But not too many stages, but heavily replayable. It's got the whole score arcade system, which is something that we were still doing at this time. Really interesting boss battles, branching paths. Like, you had everything you could, 2 players could actually play this game. Mm-hmm. You do need a CRT television if you're going to be doing the light gun stuff with this. You can play it with the controller. It is very difficult. I've gotten to level 3 with a controller, which is fairly impressive.
Yeah, you just can't move the reticle fast enough, can you?
No, it's super slow to move the reticle. But I have gotten to stage 3, so see if you could beat that using the controller. But yeah, just a super replayable light gun game of, we don't get stuff like that anymore. Unfortunately. Please bring House of the Dead to VR. That's my play.
I can't wait to see the next games done quickly where your guest appearance is getting to level 3 with a controller.
That's like one of the tiers. They're like, if we make this much money, he'll play with the controller. My favorite one of those that they ever did was Mighty Number 9. Mm-hmm. They had a tier where if they made a certain amount of money, they would play through the entire credits of Mighty Number 9 because the credits are like 5 hours long because so many people kickstarted that game.
Oh,
and
wow, yeah.
They have all of their names. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
That takes me back to Craig's comment for movies. Why don't they just do like 3 rows of people's names to shorten it?
Anyway, House of the Dead 2.
So for number 2, I'm going with number 3, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. We have not done genre top 10s yet, but I can assure you whenever we get to that in 2022 that this game will be mentioned. This is my favorite Street Fighter. This is a lot of people's favorite Street Fighter. The fact... I think that is like solely rests on the parry system for me. What?
Nothing. You keep going.
Okay.
I need to look something up.
Um.
We might need to make a change, but it's okay.
Oh.
Just go ahead.
I'm just gonna keep going. I really like this game in the fact that the parry system was as big as it was. It really added a new sort of branch to the game that, you know, like we were just saying with Soul Calibur, around this time it was fireballs and uppercuts and combos and stuff like that. So it was really nice to have that sort of system where I'm sure everyone's seen the classic Evo moment with the Chun-Li with Daigo, at least. This was a system where if you were at that little sliver of health, you weren't just dead. It wasn't just going to be like, and then, you know, kill you. Like, you always had a chance, and that made the game, that made the hype around the game, and that made, like, the tournaments or the, even if it was just in your household, like, it made it super competitive. It's sort of like a Mario Kart game where that one blue shell can ruin everything. That one parry could set off a cool little chain of combos, and you could just take it.
You could parry all 15 in a row
yeah.
or whatever.
You could be God reincarnated and just have the perfect comeback. But yeah, just that style of comeback system inherently built into the game was amazing. Characters are really cool in it. You're starting to see a lot of people's DLC requests since 4 and 5 have mysteriously been a lot of characters that were in 3 for the first time and haven't been seen since. So there's a lot of fan favorites in that game. And yeah, it was its own style of game, and it also had this really cool kind of like urban punk kind of pop sort of soundtrack that, like we mentioned with Jet Grind Radio, like we mentioned maybe with a couple other games too, that was sort of the nod, I guess, that this system gets, is that a lot of the soundtracks, yeah, it was an arcade game too, but a lot of the games on this system had very cool kind of like post-90 sounding music in it, and it was really awesome. And on top of character favorites that have even gone into today, a lot of songs from this game too are up there on a lot of people's lists. So Street Fighter 3 Third Strike number 2.
I like it. I'm going to I need to look something up, so I'll cut this out.
Okay.
So here's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it just came to my attention that I screwed up on my list. So the way I was doing, I made this list a little bit ago, and I was kind of going with you. I was having fun. I was like, ooh, what's my number 10? Okay, what's my number 9? I didn't, remember my list a lot. And then I got to my number 2, which I had Rez, and I instantly realized that game did not release here, and I was like, I made a boo-boo. So, Rez, good game, came out in Europe and Japan.
Would be on my list too.
Yeah. So, in fairness, what I'm going to do is add a point to all of my stuff and then tell you a number 10. So basically, my runner-up is now running right in, taking that 10 slot, and that boy's going to be Sonic.
Okay.
Sonic's going to show back up on the list. Sonic Adventure, Sonic's first 3D outing, and probably still the best 3D outing that he's had. Every 2D game had an interesting way to try to transition into 3D. And I don't want to say anybody thinks that this was the best way to do it, but I think that this was a valid attempt and still a good game with a mascot character that kept him going before his downfall. And I have, I'm not a big Sonic fan, but I have no shame in having to put Sonic onto my list as my number 10 slot as I add points to everything else. So Sonic Adventure showing on up there, taking Rez off my list, which is a real weird thing to say, but that's what just happened because Kevin made a boo-boo. And that's all right, These things happen.
It took a weird sort of rule to come in for Sonic to make it on one of your lists.
Man, I read that and I had an instant panic attack. I was just like, we need to fix some things. So that's what just happened. I'm going to go through, add the new point values up, and do all that. But
I can
Sonic,
talk for a second.
Getting another point. Go for it.
Number 1 game is Phantasy Star Online version 2. This was also the one that was eventually ported over to Xbox, which I probably played more on Xbox because the Xbox Live system was much better integrated than Sega Dreamcast's online attempt. But it still obviously nets the points for me because it was the first to try it and do it. This game, I'm not much of an MMO type person. It is nice to kind of have those games, sort of like you've been doing this year with Fortnite, where if you kind of hit that rut where you're just like, what do I play? Or if you're just killing time, or if, the game you're waiting for is just 8 months away and you just, need something to play, or you got friends that play it. Any of those reasons are kind of the ways that I would imagine most people get into MMOs, or you don't want to buy 50 games a year. You just want to buy one and play it. Like I said, this game is sort of what got me into that mind frame. This was the only one I can ever see me going quite as hard in. I've tried with the Old Republic. I've never touched Warcraft, thank God. And I think I've played a couple other ones and maybe tried like the first week that it came out just to see if there's anything I could latch onto. But no dice there. This is the only one. This is the only one I ever need. But it was a great game in the fact that not only kind of at the forefront of the MMO world or experience, but it was just such a, I'll call it revolutionary style of game where you're just spending time in the lobby, you're chatting with people, you're emoting with people, you're getting your friends together, you're joining groups or clans, whatever you want to call them. You're getting new gear for your guy. Like, you're just spending so much time not actually playing a game, and then you are, for all intents and purposes, dungeon running, or going to kill some bosses or some big monsters, so you can just do it all over again. It was a very casual experience. It's not like anything I had played before or around that time. It was just cool to just hang out, get home from school, start playing, and just grind through the night. So that alone, especially at that time period too, it very much lends itself to a person of no responsibilities lifestyle. You can just play for hours and hours and hours, and it was just a comfortable game where, you're competing, but not really against anything, and it's not like game over if you lose. It's just go back to the main hub and, fix yourself up and go do it again, or try to find something else to do. So the fact that it came out when it did and what it brought to the table, and obviously we see the Warcrafts and everything since that, I won't say mimic it, but use a lot of ideas from that to make just a very social game, which these games were social games, but you had to have the other person there with you. This was social in the fact that there is a larger world out there, and you can play with people that you would never have the chance of meeting. So
yeah,
obviously it owes a lot of its success to when it came out, because it's nothing new now to be like, oh yeah, my friend across the country or around the world playing with them. Like, no one raises an eyebrow at that anymore. But back then, it was quite a spectacular feat. Back when the internet was a pure place. But yeah, just for what it brought to the table, and it's not just all nostalgia. The game played well. The classes were awesome. Everything about it was just very memorable, and it will probably, I don't think we'll ever do an MMO list, because I don't think together we've played 10, but it would certainly be, it would certainly be my number one, because it had everything, all the positives that I can see from that genre, all wrapped into one nice Japanese little bow. So, Phantasy Star Online version 2.
I like it. My number one. Do you know it? Don't look.
No.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So I think that this is just the most arcade accurate game. I think it, like you said, it's a fun. You can pick up and play it. It's fun if you're losing. It's fun if you're winning. You can learn it and master it. You can just hop in and have a good time. Graphically, it's probably the best game on the system. I think it holds up probably the best graphically. Still to this day, people love it. It's a fantastic game. Set the bar high. It's this huge crossover event that we haven't seen until the likes of Infinity War.
Yeah.
Like it is absolutely insane. Didn't notice this until you were talking about it. I somehow got Mega Man in that number 1 slot. Didn't even think about it, but I did it. But yeah, just one of the best like tag team 2D fighting games that you've ever played. It is, people are still ripping that game off to this day and trying to copy it from like inputs and everything to its style that it oozes. Its roster of characters was insane.
Yeah.
For its time, like just a huge roster of characters, which is something that still games have trouble. They're like, we're launching with 16 people, and everybody's like, oh.
Day 1 DLC, 16
Yeah,
characters.
that doesn't sound good. This is a complete package game. Really fantastic. Holds up perfectly, beautifully to this
Everyone
day.
kind
Just
of
as playable now as it
to
was
their
before.
characters. I mean, it wasn't like Spider-Man with like grappling moves and punches. Like he had really Spider-Man-like moves, and all the way down to whatever Marvel or Capcom person you wanted to point to, everyone felt like them. So it was really cool at that time to have. Sort of the same thing I was saying about Soul Calibur. Everyone had a personality that, obviously, with these characters, they've had decades of comics and whatever to kind of back them. So you kind of knew what to expect as far as how they should act or move, and they did it pretty seamlessly.
Yep. Is that surprising to you at all?
No. I just, I felt like you had already mentioned it, or maybe you had just talked about it when I said mine. So,
well, I started talking about it because I got a little excited, and then I shut up because I was like, "Oh wait, I have to talk about this game." But anyway,
I saw your eyebrows go up when I said, "Let's go for a ride." You were already waiting to do it.
So we have a couple tiebreakers to break.
Yeah.
I will say I do like this list though.
Yeah.
So there's really only 2-ish that I think matter. First off, we have the House of the Dead versus the Street Fighter 3.
Okay. That is for spot number
5 and 6.
Okay.
And I will totally concede Street Fighter to you because 1, it holds up graphically better, and 2, House of the Dead requires a peripheral.
Light gun.
And I think that is an instant.
I so wish I could have played Time Crisis on this, but I don't have like a spare pedal at home that you'd need to stomp on. So, but yeah, I do like me some House of the Dead. So
the next tiebreaker to break is, I think we both just did the same thing in reverse, and that's how this happened. We have Resident Evil Code Veronica going up against Power Stone 2.
I think, I don't even remember what Code Veronica also came out for. I would imagine it came out for a Sony system.
Oh, yeah.
I think Power Stone is more Dreamcast than Code Veronica is.
Okay.
So I think
been on PSP, but I still agree with
Yeah.
you. Also, gives a party game a nice slot.
Yeah.
Gives a party game a nice slot. I think it's a more iconic Dreamcast game as well. So I agree with that.
I forgot it came out for PSP, you said?
Power Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did the Power Stone collection, I believe it was called. And it had 1 and 2 on PSP. So that completes our list. Are you ready to hear it?
I am. I love this machine.
Number 10, and this is why I'm fine with this. Space Channel 5.
All right.
We're rocking in at the number 10 slot.
Moving and grooving into the number 10 slot.
Number 9, Resident Evil Code Veronica. Number 8, Power Stone 2. Number 7, Shenmue. Number 6, House of the Dead 2. Number 5, Street Fighter 3. Number 4, Phantasy Star Online. Phantasy Star on. I never claimed I could read. I never claimed I could speak. I don't know why they let me on the internet.
I was trying to think of what Santa game I had mentioned.
Number 3 is Soul Calibur. Number 2 is Jet Grind Radio, and number 1 is Marvel vs. Capcom 2. It's a good list.
If that's not enough to sell you on this system or emulators, then I don't know what is.
That's a really solid list. I like it a lot. I don't think that there's a single game. I mean, maybe Street Fighter, just because I don't like Street Fighter. But I think all of the games are totally justified. I like it. It's like our Vita list.
I know we tried to play the Street Fighter collection, but I would imagine 3 is the most Kevin of the Street Fighters.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
The one you could get into. I mean, I know.
I'll tell you what. 5 put in a bunch of costumes I really like.
Yeah.
I'd play 5 now. That's all it takes for me. Very superficial.
And of course, the Kevin range for Street Fighter is this is awful to like meh. So I think 3 might be the crescent of meh.
That's pretty exciting. But that is it. That's our Dreamcast list, and that is our episode of this Press X podcast here.
A little messy, but that's what we can expect
there was nothing messy about this at all.
What we can expect with these older systems that had some rights and some delayed releases and anything where you're messing with computers starting to take off versus arcades and
that and just like worldwide releases and stuff weren't a thing. Like as we go back, like they named the Final Fantasy games differently in different places. Yeah. Like it is a huge cluster of just anything goes. Like it was the Wild West. There was no standard for anything. Now we're getting these worldwide releases with dual audio and all this. Like this is new to us.
And
so when we go back, it's going to get
all of these
sloppy.
systems are Japan made. So if it was different there, it's different for us obviously too.
Yeah.
But I think some runner-ups or some honorable mentions that couldn't make it onto the list with our rules. Obviously, Shenmue 2 would have been on here. You've yet to experience the wonder and the grand of Shenmue 2. Maybe you will at some point.
I would like.
You've got plenty of time before 3 comes out. Realistically, Quake 3 Arena. I would have loved to have put that on there, but PC Master Race got it first, and that was my real rockin' like multiplayer online shooting game. It was
there's an Unreal Tournament. On the console.
That too.
Rayman 2 is a really, really good platformer.
And like you mentioned, we both would have put Rez for sure
absolutely.
on our list. But
I think to get it at number 2. It didn't work.
I think the list worked out well enough where if Rez isn't on there, just listen to the reason why it's not on there. I guess we're not that crazy. But yeah, I like this list a lot.
Yeah, it's great. But anyway, thank you for being here, Nick.
Of course.
And thank you guys so much for sticking with us through that mess. And we will speak with you next time.